What's up, guys? Just some housekeeping before we get into this week's episode of the Reseller Nirvana podcast. We want to make sure that everyone knows that in the Patreon, there's also an additional episode. So we launch a bonus episode around the 27th of every single month, just so our viewers can get an extra Patreon only episode. And we usually try to get into more of the deep dive, exactly how to increase your traffic and sales type of eBay, which is a little bit overkill for YouTube, since YouTube is mainly for people who are just getting started. But if you want some more in-depth knowledge on how to get to the next level, there are more perks inside the Patreon, a lot of Patreon only stuff, and inside the Facebook group, which is the best value. We recommend you sign up for the entire year, and if you don't make more money, we will give you a refund in full. It's very clear. You will save more time and make more money if you join the group, so we appreciate you guys. Let's get into the show. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. Welcome to Season 2. And today we're going to talk about the number one source of all reseller problems. And I am an expert in all of these problems. And it is being a generalist. When you are a generalist, it prevents you from getting really good at reselling. I know all of the problems that happen when you sell all different kinds of things, all different price ranges, don't know anything about all of them, and you're just chasing random squirrels all day. It is totally crippling. And since recently, I've been trimming down. Everything starts to make sense. The photos start to make sense. The listing starts to make sense. The pricing starts to make sense. And the only reason, there's two reasons why that I had success in my old store. Just two reasons. One, really good product. Okay. Really good brands that people actually want to buy. Secondly, I had best offer. So when I made a horrible listing, someone could at least offer and say, I think that you're really listing this. I would like to pay this amount for it, which is considerably less than you are asking, but maybe closer to market price. If I didn't have best offer, then I would have really, really low amount of sales, in my opinion, and no promoted listings, as you had mentioned earlier before the call.
Yeah, so a lot of people, in the beginning, you have to be a generalist because you don't know a niche or an area of expertise that allows you to kind of narrow down and figure out what you want to sell. But as you alluded to, like when you do have a lot of different product going into the store, it's very difficult to have any sort of uniform policies or any sort of standardization. On
Mm-hmm.
the call last night, a lady said that she is a little bit newer and she hasn't niched down yet. And, we've been talking about, stockpiling your boxes to make sure you have them through Q4, stockpile all your shipping supplies so you have it through Q4. And she said, what's the best recommendation for me to stockpile when I need a lot of different size boxes or a lot of different kind of supplies because I sell a lot of different types of product. And, that's one of the biggest things about not having a niche or drilling down to something in particular that you're going to sell is it makes planning very difficult. So like for you, before you kind of focused on clothing, when you went out sourcing, and I would say today, I would say, hey, what's the plan for next week? What are you going to list? If you aren't niched down, you don't know. It could be a bicycle, it could be an end table, it could be a lamp, it could be a blender, microwave. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And if we cannot plan inside of our business, it's very difficult to plan tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. But the good thing, a lot of the skills and the habits that we've talked about make it a lot easier to succeed if you are niched down, to the best of your ability, because then you could forecast mistakes. You can, draw out and plan what's going to happen as you build or as you grow. But unless you do narrow down, it is difficult to make that forecast for your business.
When we started this group until now, I have been turbocharged by being able to see all these different specialists in the group. And we go by the listing quality report as our Bible in this group, and it tells you what to do on eBay. And there's probably a top seller in every category in our group. And that has shown me how difficult it is to do more than one category. People spend 40, 60, 80 hours a week trying to get good at one category. Imagine you have your attention spread out. When I learned reselling, I was on YouTube. I went to a bunch of events and I met hundreds or thousands of generalists. And that did not help me. But when you watch people who are great at what they do, you pick up a lot of things. You watch and say, wow, when I watched Tim take photos of shoes in 30 seconds, I thought to myself, wow, that is very different. All the pictures look the same and take 30 seconds. That's amazing. If you had a 10 item goal, you'd be done with your pictures in 5 minutes. That's amazing. So when you look at specialization, I think that's where you learn how important it is. But when you meet a lot of generalists, all it is bouncing from bolo to bolo to bolo. And it's very difficult to gain any momentum with that, especially if you burn out. And I remember driving 100 miles to get a washer and dryer that was priced incorrectly. So it was 57 cents instead of $570. And the manager would not sell to me because he's like, this is so egregiously wrong. I can't let you buy this. And so imagine spending your whole day going somewhere and then you hit that dead end. That's totally crippling. But imagine if you were selling clothing or jewelry and you knew 100 different suppliers. It's just a different story.
So what leads you, even once you have a few months or a few years under your belt
Mm-hmm.
reselling or selling on eBay, what was still leading you towards driving hours away for a washer and dryer combo that was 57 cents when if you would stay home or go to your warehouse and just do your daily routine,
Yep.
you would still be able to make enough money to supply the business and ultimately make more money than wasting an entire day driving back and forth.
I know exactly why. And it's one of the reasons why your store is such a model for me because when thinking at it from a higher level, you are dedicated to the craft of being the best reseller, not the money. Because you're the best at the craft, you also make the most money. But it's not people who want the money. They don't build the best reselling business because they're chasing the dollar amount. They're looking for $1,000 profit, $500 profit, and they're chasing. Chasing is the opposite of what you're doing. You're attracting. When you become the best at your category, there's an endless amount of supply. You have the most traffic because you're the most reliable person that eBay can send the traffic to deliver the right experience, which is fees for them. So chasing is what I used to be, or where my mind was at, where I hear something, oh, there's a sale on this, there's a this on that, and then it's reactive. You wait for something to happen, then you go after it. You are the opposite. You are proactive when you think of things that could happen, and then you prevent those from happening. I think, today is going to be a really comprehensive episode because I'm going to go over so many of the problems that have happened to me over the years that you avoided by just doing things the right way.
So, how I operate my business, what I want to do is have the same day every single day. I want to know what I'm going to be doing next Thursday at 10:45 a.m.
Mhm.
I want to have that forecast where I know, next month in December or November, I know that I'm going to see a bump in sales because it's Q4. And as long as I keep listing the same type of items with more traffic, the conversion rate and the click through rate will equate to more sales. And that should give me a bump in sales, a bump in the bottom line, a bump in money in the pocket. And I think that I like to have a business where I can truly forecast what tomorrow is going to look like, what next week is going to look like. And like you said, Tim, he can take pictures of shoes in 30 seconds. So he knows if you gave him 15 pairs of shoes, he could tell you before he even does it how long it's going to take him to do
Mhm.
his day.
That's right.
But if you have a bunch of stuff, how can you be consistent in your day when you never have any sort of baseline on how long it's going to take you to get through your listings, pack your items, and run your eBay business? Because if you're selling everything and you had a sale yesterday where maybe you don't have that size box and now you have to run all around town to find the box, that puts a hiccup in the plan. Or if you didn't sell that home run, maybe your cash flow is messed up because on the charts for the people who are everything sellers, it's some high days and it's also days with next to zero sales because they have to depend on the home runs. They have to depend on that big sale because they're not putting anything consistent into their store, price wise or niche wise. So how are you able to develop your schedule, develop your day when every single day is different?
That's 100% correct. You can't develop any momentum. It's because your day is so different from day to day. And being a generalist is it sounds like more fun, but it becomes a grind. And when you dread the next day, because that's usually because you don't know what it looks like, in my opinion. If so, I'm going to do this in a separate YouTube video for myself personally, but I do very, very poorly when there's no schedule, just personally. If I have to think about what I need to do next, the default is do nothing. And I don't know if other people are like that, but if my day is set up and I know what I'm supposed to do, and it's just knock it out. And I think that you need to have those battles set up and you need to know what you're going to do. Otherwise, you're just waiting for something to happen. And that's like it would be the equivalent of opening up your email and that's your day. You don't know what's in there. And I think
Or
that's go ahead.
I think for you, I don't think that you did nothing. I think a lot of times you resorted to tinkering with stuff,
Mm,
tinkering stuff inside of the business because you didn't have a setup for what you were selling. So if you were listing a bike and your setup was to do clothes, you have to tinker and change the process.
hmm
If you're taking photos of CDs that day, you have to tinker and change the process. And once you start changing things, especially with your personality type, is like, oh, maybe this is a little bit better, or maybe this way is a little bit better. And then you get trapped into like a lot of tinkering because everything is constantly changing. But when you decided to fully focus on clothes, not change any of your processes, you're up $500,000, $7,000 per week. When you eliminated that whole step of I have to change because my item changed. But if your item stayed the same, your setup stayed the same, and that allowed you to focus on growing your business and running your business better. Instead of like working inside of the business, you start working on the business because the supply is not a question anymore. The setup is not a question anymore. Doing anything differently in the process is not a question anymore. So once all of those questions get eliminated, that's when you can increase your listings, or that's when you can make your listings better for the listing quality report, gain more traffic, and eventually gain more sales.
So I want to talk about something that you get to do because you've earned it, which is you become an expert in your category. And when you're an expert in your category, you make the most money, you get the fastest sell-through rate, you're the most liked by suppliers. And do you want to be the number one person on your supplier's speed dial? You want to be that person. That gives you a sense of confidence. So I can tell you, I've been repairing my old store, and there was something I did that was extremely lazy, which I did was like with pants, all pants are 19.99. That doesn't work because there's different brands. Some pants are worth 199.99. Some pants are worth $1 plus shipping and they still might not sell. Some pants won't sell at $1 free shipping. You have to really know what your items are. So now, as I'm going through my store, because pants is one of the categories that I am becoming an expert in, I know certain pants are 5, certain pants are 50, certain pants are 12. I know all those different price points now because I've been researching it. And I can tell when you have a lot of views and no sale, that means that you have a really quality item, but you did a poor job of converting the person coming to it. That's probably you have a good brand, but it's priced too high, or as simple as it's a size large and you have it marked as a size small. No one's going to message you and tell you that you listed it wrong. They're just going to move on to the next one.
Right. And every time someone bounces from your listing, that's like a downvote. And
Mm-hmm.
eBay doesn't like that because they're acquiring the customer to send to your items and hopefully to convert to a sale. Brian, he posted a great graphic in the group this week. And this information was from 6 years ago. And the average eBay shopper was on the platform for 12 minutes and they visited 13 items in 12 minutes.
Mm.
And that's under 1 minute per item. And this is from 7 years ago. This is pre TikTok. This is pre Instagram. This is pre 30-second attention span, 15-second attention span. If your listing is not correct in one way, shape, or form, you might only have 10 or 15 seconds to lock down this sale. And if you don't attract the customer enough or pique their interest enough in 10 or 15 seconds to close the sale, they literally might be on to the next item. And then you lost that buyer, you lost that sale, and you lost a little bit of traction on that traffic. So it's very, very important that everything that we have documented in the listing corresponds with the title, item specific description, and the photos, because we might only have 10 or 15 seconds of someone on their phone flicking back and forth to close the deal.
When you become an expert, this is another beautiful thing. You can correct a listing in 10 seconds. So it doesn't take you long to go fix your store. Today, I corrected 500 listings. I'm going to have, and I have been having record days in the big store despite smaller listing because so many of the listings were wrong. So going through and adjusting, it's really a cool way to look at it, because and then you have the biggest difference between my small store and the big store is the small store doesn't need any editing or revising. The whole delist, relist concept comes from not doing a good job the first time. And you can, that whole thing, that meme where, in one picture, this guy is figuring out how to put his shoe back together. And in the second picture, he's figuring out how to not break his shoe in the first place. That meme is you watching everybody else struggle.
So when you go back and you edit 500 listings,
Yeah.
what is the overall underlying factor of what needs to be edited usually?
So in the title, the order, a few adjustments to the order of the title. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
But that I wouldn't say that was what is causing it to sell, though. What's causing it to sell is an accurate price. That's number one. So all the pricing was just when we use the term price buckets, I kind of misinterpreted that maybe a year ago, thinking that means all pants are this price. Not knowing that each individual item has its own price bucket.
Yeah.
And that is really different. Also, the description needs to reflect, like, okay, the condition description is huge. So if the item is new, I had a lot of items that were new that were marked as pre-owned. I had a lot of pre-owned items that were marked as new. Those are totally dead. I had plenty of items that were in the wrong category. So I manually went and got a box, took it down, looked through the box, put all the items in order, looked up every single item, opened every single item in a new tab, went through and looked at them. I took 6 sets of new pictures today because I was just thinking, you know what? I'm just going to do it right the first time. So I found 6 listings out of 500 where the pictures were horrible, or maybe there weren't even pictures, because maybe these are drafts that I launched with no picture because they expired. So retook those 6 pictures. Of the 500, I think I've already sold 8 from today. So if you're looking for instant results, the manual way of doing it, and once you start to get momentum, you think, wow, I think, at least for me, my personality type, I do best with activity. And if your day is just, okay, I'm going to get this whole section of my inventory, pick it up, bring it to my desk. Oh, and also this is big. 1 box at a time I took to my desk. Don't overwhelm yourself and pick down, put a whole room of stuff in front of your desk. You won't be able to operate. It's crippling. So one at a time, I look through every single item, look through title, pictures, item specifics, category. Before, I did not know all the NCAA, NFL, MLB, all that stuff was just in the regular clothing category, not the sports category. The department, and this is another thing I was fixing from the virtual assistants. The category, men's, men, women's, women, you have to match it exactly to what's in the drop down. Mm-hmm. And you can't put chinos in the type for pants, because the type or department, there's like a certain categories where in the pants category, the drop down is pants.
Right.
Those ones, it was most commonly men and women. Those were misspelled. They weren't the wrong gender. It was just men instead of men's, or men's instead of men, women's instead of women. Then, and I know what caused that. When you use a virtual assistant, they have templates, and shortcuts. And the thing is, the categories on eBay are very specific and they change. So you can't use one template for something else. It'll copy all the wrong information over. So it might look right to you because it says men, but it's actually men's with an S. And now that the listing doesn't show up in the search. So one at a time, I looked through those listings and um, it was really eye opening. But the main thing, number one, was the pricing was wrong.
And you touched on it a little bit, and like people are probably going to listen to this and think about maybe they have older listings that aren't done correctly or done to the best of their ability or the way that eBay wants them.
Mm-hmm.
um is there any kind of like blockade in the brain of like going back and fixing all of those listings that you've already done one time already? Because you're working on a store that has 27,000 items,
Yeah.
and like you said, you're going box by box, listing by listing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, some people don't want to do their bookkeeping because they're afraid to look at it to see the truth, to see the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe some people just don't want to go back and look at their old listings because they're afraid at what they will see and the work ahead. So like,
Mm-hmm.
what part of like the mental process is it to say like, I have to go back and look through my items even though I've already put the work in to do them? Like, I have to go back and do them again. And we talked a little bit earlier today, and like, everyone wants to go fast, take a shortcut, do the easiest way, take the easiest route. But like, the easiest way, the shortest of the shortest cut, is to just do it correctly the first time through.
Mm-hmm. I'm the mentality shift is I want to be the best reseller I can be instead of I want to make the most money. Because when you're listing a lot without regard to or if you're doing a good job or not, you're thinking, okay, 500 listings is better than 200 listings. I'll make more money. But if you do 500 listings incorrect, 50 listings that are correct is better. So if you could take a step back and think, okay, you know what? And it's not as simple as quality over quantity. It's not that simple. It's the process of reselling that makes the better part of it. Because some people will just say, I'd rather have quality over quantity, but that means they just have 5 bad listings instead of 50 bad listings. You still have to do a good listing. You can't just be small and claim that. So when we're reviewing stores, most of the time it's always the same things. It's titles, pictures, item specific. So no matter what size you are, accuracy is number one. And so for me, it hasn't been a struggle going back through my entire store because I want to be the best reseller I can. So with that kind of mentality, it's okay. If you're thinking about I'm wasting time by not listing new items and I'm losing the opportunity to earn more money, I think that's the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, because the way how eBay is set up now with category item specifics, if those are wrong, you may literally never sell that item.
Yeah.
Like, it may never sell. And we've done store reviews or the calls after this where people have asked us to try to find an item, and we're sitting here actually trying to find the item and we cannot find it. And if we're trying to find it by using left hand navigation, by searching the same keywords that you've put in the title, and we literally cannot find it, then a customer cannot find it either. And I guess you've also said it, is that going back and doing the edits and redoing those listings, making sure that they're good, eBay rewards activity. So like, they're rewarding you for going back and editing those listings because you said you've already sold 8 items out of the 500 that you did today. So that's already more than a 1% sell through, like a 1.5% sell through
Mm-hmm.
just on those 500 items that you edited today. So if you do go back and list them, if you do drop the price by 5% or more, eBay is going to send out an email to everyone that is watching that item or to people that may have looked at that item recently, and they're going to tell you, hey, this guy just dropped his price to this, and they're going to prompt buyers to come to your store. So eBay is going to reward your activity and your effort for going back and fixing those listings. And I can't stress it enough, the way that eBay is set up now, it's not just by the search bar. If your left hand navigation results are screwed up, you may never sell those items.
Yeah, you're not showing up in the search. And I think the analogy that I try to get across of the item specifics being the location of your restaurant, location is everything. If your item is being shown to people, and this is what promoted listings does, everyone that turns promoted listings on gets a huge boost and then a huge drop. The reason you get the huge boost in the beginning is eBay shows your ad to everyone. Then, because some of your ads don't convert, they don't continue to show it to everyone. They show it to less people. And then you see that conversion drop. That's normal because in the beginning, they don't know who's going to convert from your listings because they don't know your listings very well. So if you have a poor listing and it's promoted, you might get lucky like I was, just have a huge store and some will still convert. But the longevity, you have items in your store that some of these items that I'm correcting are 9, 10, 15 months old. And they are selling the same day I fixed it. This could have sold 10 months ago or a year ago if I had the right information in there for people to buy it. So I think everyone should try to maintain a 1% sell through rate. So Amazon sellers have been having that inventory squeeze, might be a blessing in disguise for them because they've got to go back and tighten up. And maybe that'll open new opportunities for them, not just using Amazon as their warehouse.
Yeah, and it's always a good idea from time to time, maybe monthly, quarterly, yearly, to do like a self audit. And every business does a self audit, no matter the size of the business or, huge companies or medium sized companies. So, what you're doing now, going back through and looking bin by bin, that's the version of the self audit. And you can catch mistakes. You can catch items that are no longer on eBay. You can, do like Jared said, like he's no longer listing the way that he wanted to list. Now he's listing the way that eBay wants us to list. And everything that we put into the listing is factual based. Like, it's not speculation. All of those things are definable. If you're confused about what an item specific is, if you don't understand an item specific, if you don't know what one of the prompts is that they allow us to put in there, Google it, find a definition, figure out what it is, and then you'll be better educated to fill out the listing correctly. So, none of that stuff is up for interpretation. All of those things there are fact based on the way that sellers search and the data that eBay has gathered. So each and every one of those things that eBay is requiring us to do or recommending us to do is of, the utmost importance in order to translate and convert that item for a sale.
Absolutely. And your way of listing, which is sell similar off of your own item, you can't do unless you know exactly what it is that you're selling. And that was an eye opener because people were saying, well, if you list 250 items a day, how come nobody copies you? It's because in order to copy you, they would have to be able to sell similar off of their own listings. And in the beginning, most people sell similar off of other people's listings. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that over time, you start to notice errors in other people's listings. You adjust yourself, you create your own way of doing business. And at that stage, you start to become an expert when your way of doing it is better than just sell similar off of somebody else.
Well, the biggest argument against the selling similar a year ago, when people really didn't understand the full concept, was I can only do that because I have a large inventory and I have a lot of items to choose from. That's not the case. The
That's
case is
true.
I buy the same items over and over again. And, Robin said it in one of the morning calls,
Yep.
and she hit it on the head and answered her own question without realizing it, and realized it later. And she said, he can only do it because he always is listing Tommy Bahama shirts.
Hmm.
Then don't buy those items that you're not set up to sell. So for me, if I see a Gucci sweater, my business is not set up to sell that item. I'm not going to pick it up
Yep.
because that requires a different photo setup, because probably that buyer doesn't want to buy something that's a flat lay or doesn't want to buy something on vertical flat lay. They might want, a white background next to a stock photo. They might want it on a mannequin. I would have to research the year that came out. I would have to price research. I would have to figure out everything about that item. And my business is not set up to do that. My business is set up to list the same items that I make an effort to acquire. And that way it allows me to have the listing process go fast, go smoothly, go seamlessly, and able to sell similar off of my items and allows me to list quickly. But if I had a bunch of brands that I'm not familiar with and that I don't sell, then you're right. Selling similar is a foreign concept and doesn't make any sense.
I have a cheat code that popped up in the group. So a lady posted this really cool lamp. You know, it was about 5 feet tall, very ornate, great design. You had the exact same reaction as me, which is
Hell no.
hell no. Exactly. Hell no. And now that I'm thinking about it, you have to have that type of reaction because maybe when you're first starting, you think, oh, maybe this is a big hit, or you see the dollar signs in your eyes. But as you do this longer, you see it as a trap,
Yeah.
not an opportunity. It's a trap.
Right. And if people want to have the squirrel brain, squirrels get trapped. How many times have you been trapped running around with the squirrel brain? You
Definitely.
literally had items so
Definitely.
long that in the listing you edited the listing and said, if this is not sold by Friday, I'm throwing it away.
That's right.
That's a humongous trap.
Absolutely. It's it's so tempting. And I think that you have to have it like, for example, everybody wants a little sugar and you think, oh, this is going to be sweet. This is going to be awesome. But if you were to think of it as poison, you won't go anywhere near that.
Right. Right.
You need to change your mentality and look at it as poison.
Exact, because it's poison to the business. You're not
Yeah,
set up to ship it. You're not set up to photograph it. You're not set up to list it. You're not set up to store it. And if you're an everything seller, you could say, oh, well, I store everything. I have an everything storage. Like, that's not a storage system. Like, if you got hit by a bus, like, no one knows how to take over and do your storage system. No one
no,
knows how to pull your items. No one knows how to pack and ship your items because there is no uniform policy. So, like, that's not a system. Systems are, you can duplicate them and you can repeat them over and over again. So anything that does not fit into the system here, like you said, it's poisonous to the system. And I've said it before on a lot of the calls. When something gets into the system and it's not correct, the way how this is set up, it could spread through the system like a virus and it could affect the entire system. So
hmm
I have to be super careful in making sure that my listings stay the same all the time. Because if they're wrong, since we sell similar, they could be wrong, 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 wrong. And then that virus spreads through the store. Or if something goes out of place, because we pretty much run on an assembly line system, if something is out of place, that adds time, that adds seconds, and eventually minutes. And then over the course of a month, you could be losing hours. And losing hours of productivity is hours of productivity not getting listings up. And if you're not fully focused getting listings up because you're wasting a minute between each photo or wasting a minute between each listing, at the end of the day, that ultimately affects the bottom line. And it's the same thing. If you're wasting time switching from toaster mode, sweater mode, microwave mode, VCR DVD combo mode, that's precious moments that you could have spent getting up more quality items at the end of the day. And we've talked about it before. The ultimate goal and my number one focus is getting up as many quality items as I can every single day.
That concludes the free portion of our podcast. If you'd like to continue listening, please join us at patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast. We appreciate you, everyone. We will see you next week.